Dillian the Body Snatcher White here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Right, so Simon Jordan of TalkSport, you, my man, are one of my favourite people right now. Very, very proud of you because he's done something that I've been trying to do for the longest time, which is get the WBC president, Mauricio Sulaiman, on my channel for a podcast so I can grill him, so I can put the questions to him. Because there's too many people out there who will interview Mauricio Sulaiman, ask some probing questions, but then back off. I don't like that. There's a lot of questions that need to be addressed. And to be honest, I'll probably do it in a little bit of an aggressive way if I felt that I was being fobbed off. And that's exactly what Simon Jordan was doing. He put the questions to him. He backed Mauricio Sulaiman into a corner that Mauricio Sulaiman had to run away. He had to end the call and run. Okay? Now, I've made it no secret. I've been trying to get Mauricio Sulaiman on the platform for quite some time to do a podcast just so I can grill him, predominantly about Dillian Whyte and the mandatory position. Mauricio Sulaiman knows that, which is why he hasn't come onto my platform. I can get most people on my platform, as I have done. I don't need to go through the list. Go check my interviews. Much bigger people and more important people in the boxing world than Mauricio Sulaiman. But for some reason, he doesn't want to do it. I think we know why. But the way that Simon Jordan was going at Mauricio Sulaiman, I can only commend him. If I ever see him out in a pub somewhere, I'm buying you a couple of drinks. Because the way that Simon Jordan went at him, I'm very, very proud of. And it wasn't that he'd done it in a malicious way. He asked him legitimate questions that you and I want the answers to. Which is, in a nutshell, I mean, I can go through his entire statement, but it's far quicker I don't. So I'm going to leave that in the description box for you all. Of course, he was alongside Jim White and Spencer Oliver on the TalkSport platform. Basically, Simon Jordan was asking Mauricio Sulaiman the questions of, how can you, the WBC president, knowing full well what the contract situation is between Fury and Wilder, allow and sanction Fury to be negotiating with Anthony Joshua? And then when the arbitrator then rules in favour of Deontay Wilder, then flip-flop and go back on and sanction again Fury versus Wilder for a third time. In the meantime, what you're doing is you're allowing your WBC champion, which he's done for the longest time with Deontay Wilder, and he seems to be doing it the same way with Tyson Fury, which is skip past your mandatory obligations. They haven't even called Dillian Whyte as the mandatory yet, which is disturbing for me. And I've said this before quite a few times. Of course, I speak with Dillian a lot, and I've said to Dillian quite a few times now, and for you guys to hear as well as in private, which is, what's the point in you being WBC interim champion? Why are you paying all these sanction fees? For what? The reward should be get a world title shot. Other people are getting world title shots who never paid a sanctioning fee. Tyson Fury never paid not one penny to the WBC sanctioning. Not one penny. But he gets a mandatory position shot in the second fight with Wilder. Why? Because they took the position off Dillian Whyte and gave it straight to Tyson Fury. Why did they do that? Again, Simon Jordan, if you can, get the British Box Border Control chairman, Charlie Giles, onto your channel. And please ask him the question, because again, his secretary declined me, because he, Charlie Giles, British Box Border Control chairman, who of course is also on the committee of the WBC, petitioned for Tyson Fury to replace Dillian Whyte as the mandatory, even though Tyson Fury had already agreed to fight Deontay Wilder. Why did he do that? So he can get a third fight in. That's why he done it. Charlie Giles, in my opinion, was in on the screw against Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte, who passed all VADA, which, by the way, was why the WBC stripped Dillian Whyte of the mandatory position in the first place around the Oscar Rivas fight time, because there was an adverse finding with some PEDs for him, which of course then turned out that Dillian Whyte was totally innocent. He'd done nothing wrong. There was a contamination. Again, which is one of the reasons why they allowed him to fight in the first place. But he passed all VADA, which is the WBC protocol. So they suspended his position while it's under investigation, took his mandatory position away from him and gave it to Tyson Fury, which then resets the whole mandatory position back. So even when Dillian Whyte was proven to be innocent, they never gave him his position back. They then put him back of the queue. Whereas before he had like a certain timeline to get his world title shot, they then extended it for another year because they'd already given it to Tyson Fury. This is the politics that's going on. Charlie Giles, you need to answer this damn question. Why did you do that? Was you in on the screw with the WBC against Dillian Whyte? Why the WBC not awarding Dillian Whyte the mandatory position? Dillian Whyte was mandatory. He defended that position along with his interim belt against Alexander Povetkin. Okay, he lost. Fair point. But then he beat him in the rematch. So when you win the rematch, surely you get back everything that you previously lost. If you disagree with that point, then you have to disagree with if somehow Deontay Wilder ends up fighting Fury again. Who knows what's going on that one. But if he beats Fury, should he not get back the WBC belt? If you say he should, then you should be saying Dillian Whyte should be mandatory. But you don't want to say that because you've got an issue with Dillian Whyte. Surely, right? What's fair is fair. The WBC are not giving him the mandatory position back. They're still waiting to make an announcement. Why are they waiting to make an announcement? I think it's pretty obvious to everybody because they're allowing a third fight to happen to push the mandatory out the way because Dillian Whyte is a problem for them. Because Dillian Whyte, he will push for that world title fight. He's been trying to do it for the longest time. And I've said to Dillian, I don't know how many times now, when are you actually going to go through with it and sue him? Don't threaten it, do it. What are you waiting for? They're doing you no favours. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, the WBC are just making up the rules as they go along. Their rules don't mean nothing. It means absolutely nothing. They're so afraid to upset Wilder. They're so afraid to upset Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, when he won that belt, should have been automatically told you're fighting Dillian Whyte next. That's what it should have been. When Dillian Whyte beat Povetkin in the rematch, your position is then reinstated. Not reset to start another year. You shouldn't have to do that. Because again, the day that they announce Dillian Whyte is the official mandatory, they're going to start the clock in 12 months from when they announce it. That ain't right. For me, the sanctioning bodies need to be abolished. People like Mauricio Sulaiman, the WBC, the WBA as well, they're probably the worst ones right now. These kind of people, these sanctioning bodies need to be kicked out of the sport. They need to be pushed out. Just to stop all this kind of thing happening. Because they're quite willing to take Dillian Whyte's money, but they're not willing to give him a world title fight. Because it doesn't fit with what Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder want to do. Mauricio, you're far too cozy with your champions. You're far too cozy about it. It should be a business. Every year, every 12 months, mandatory completed. Exemptions for unifications only. You don't allow your champions to have rematch clauses unless it was for a voluntary defense and there's enough time to squeeze in before a mandatory. You shouldn't allow them to do that. Any sanctioning body shouldn't do that. I know Joshua does that as well. It shouldn't really be allowed unless there's enough time frame to get the rematch in before the mandatory is called. What you don't do is use a situation to strip your mandatory of his mandatory position and award it to somebody else who hasn't earned it. Fury hadn't earned it. He hadn't fought a final eliminator. When he fought Wilder the first time, let's be honest here, when he fought Wilder the first time, he should not have fought Wilder. He wasn't ranked in the top 15 of the WBC, so therefore it shouldn't have been sanctioned. And he wasn't enrolled in VADA, which is again protocol. If you want to be ranked by the WBC, you have to be enrolled in VADA, especially when you're ranked in the top 15. But he's getting ranked at what, number 3 I think it was at the time. They elevated him after one fight was to Ferguson Ferry, even though he'd never fought a WBC fight for, I don't know, even before he was like Commonwealth champion, I think. And people who want to say, but he defeated Vladimir Klitschko. Yeah, that had nothing to do with the WBC. Klitschko was not WBC champion. He wasn't. But WBC allowed him to get a world title fight against Wilder. They allowed Wilder to cherry pick who it is that he fights. They gave him 2 mandatories beforehand. Dominic Brazil, who beat Eric Molina. Come on now. That's just ridiculous. And Bermane Stiverne, who'd only had 1 fight since losing his belt against a journeyman, somewhat journeyman gatekeeper in Derek Rossi, where Bermane Stiverne arguably lost that fight because he did actually get dropped in that fight. Why? Because he's a Don King fighter. It's all politics. So anyway, article in the description box, just so I don't have to go on about it too much longer. Simon Jordan, you are the man. You are the man. He put Mauricio Sulaiman on the hot seat and it started glowing red. Mauricio Sulaiman jumped off of it, ended the call and ran away, refused to come back after the ad break. Refused to come back because he knew that the follow-up questions that Simon Jordan was going to be asking were questions that he could not get out of without either A, lying, or B, telling the truth and thus exposing himself. Big up Simon Jordan. If anybody sees him about, tell him Sport and Icon said well done and buy him a drink. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, catch you all in the next video.